Still a ball with them.
All right, stand back, ready?
Okay, we are on the air. I call the 2,411th meeting of the Milwaukie City Council to order. This meeting is being held in person at City Hall and by video conference. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall or joining the Zoom webinar. The meeting is being broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and Comcast Cable Channel 30 within city limits. There will be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address council, you may come to City Hall or participate via Zoom. If you are interested in speaking, please let staff know by filling out a yellow comment card for those at City Hall or emailing ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov for those on Zoom. When it is time to take public comments, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. Comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. We ask that all Zoom participants who intend to speak label their Zoom username to show their first and last names for the record. Spanish translation services are available upon request. The public is asked to request translation and other meeting accessibility services at least 48 hours before the meeting. For more information, contact the city recorder at 503-786-7502. Servicios de traducción en español está disponible cuando sea solicitado. Se pide al público que solicite servicios de traducción y otros servicios de accesibilidad por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión. Para obtener más información, llama al secretario de la ciudad a 503-786-7502. Translation services are also available in other languages. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The City of Milwaukie respectfully acknowledges that our community is located on the ancestral homeland of the Clackamas people. In 1855, the surviving members of the Clackamas signed the Willamette Valley Treaty, also known as the Kalapuya Etc. Treaty, with the federal government in good faith. We offer our respect and gratitude to the Indigenous people of this land. And we will have a proclamation about that in a little bit. Okay, I will start with announcements, though. The Letting Libraries Fall Author Series continues tomorrow. In her evocative, genre-defying graphic memoir, Tess Hulls tells the story of 3 generations of women in her family. The series continues through October. All events take place at the Letting Libraries Community Room. Join the downtown community for a celebration of art, music, and food at the final First Friday of event of 2024, this Friday, October 4th, from 5 to 8 p.m. And there will be, as we discussed briefly at our work session, there will be a reception down on the ground floor here in City Hall and a chance to meet the city manager. Join the Wetland Conservancy at the next Minthorn Springs Volunteer Restoration event on Saturday, October 12th from 9:30 a.m. to noon. The event is family friendly, but they do ask everyone to RSVP so that they know who to expect. You can find the link on the city's online calendar. Come to City Hall on Saturday, October 12th at 2 p.m. to enjoy some Mexican living history with Ballet Papalotl. Ballet Papalotl is an Oregonian youth bicultural dance troupe that has performed traditional Mexican folkloric dance since 2003. This event will take place here in Council Chambers. Everyone is welcome to attend, and the event is free. Please join the city for its annual Arbor Day celebration and tree planting on Saturday, October 26th from 8:45 a.m. to 1 p.m. There are multiple ways to participate in the celebration. You can purchase a tree for your yard or street. The deadline to register for a tree is Friday, October 4th. And I do want to call out that these trees that Friends of Trees plant are really good, large, healthy, strong trees. And it's a pretty good bargain, I think. I think Councilor Kosherbati actually has a couple of them in his yard. You can sign up to other ways you can participate. You can sign up to volunteer to help plant trees throughout the city on the day of the event. You can also just stop by and enjoy the festivities, which include free tree giveaways, light food and refreshments, and lots of information about the city's urban forest program. This year, the celebration is taking place at Water Tower Park. The annual event for the community to dispose of unused or expired prescription drugs and have sensitive documents shredded is coming up also on Saturday, October 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the city's Public Safety Building. Please check the event on the city's online calendar for specific information about how to prepare your items for drop-off. Put on your, and yet another event on October 26th. Put on your costumes and come downtown from 1 to 4 p.m. for Trick or Treat on Main Street. Businesses throughout downtown, not just on Main Street, will open their doors to little ghosts and goblins with candy and other fun surprises. Check the city calendar on the web to find particular highlights to be aware of. The Hector Campbell Neighborhood District Association invites you to make the trail through Homewood Park, part of your trick-or-treat route on Halloween. The route starts at the west end of the trail off of Garrett Drive and ends with photo opportunities and popcorn. The not-so-spooky fun will begin at 4 and end at 7:30. For information about each of these events and others, please visit the city's homepage at milwaukeeoregon.gov or call 503-786-7555. And it's October 1st, and so I wanted to make another announcement about the opening of Davis Graveyard. Davis Graveyard has been a Milwaukie institution for well over 20 years. I was reading their website, and I guess in 2026, we'll be coming up on 30 years. It was started small with just Jeff and Chris Davis doing their own thing, but it grew pretty quickly, and they have a whole team. It takes a village, as Jeff Davis said to me. I went this weekend and shot these photos. I helped with some of the setup this weekend, and it was really fun, and they really have an amazing group of committed people who come together to do this every year, to create new tombstones. That angel there that she's doing some painting touch up is a new thing. That's a tombstone for James Earl Jones. I think we're working on one for Maggie Smith. They kind of try to catch the current losses as well as, and there's funny ones and there's scary ones, and it's kind of a little of everything. And it's something they do. They don't charge anybody admission. And it's not they spend a lot of money to put this on for the community. They rent storage space for the stuff the rest of the year. They rent trucks to get it in and out of its storage space. So I do encourage people to stop by. They are going to have a merch tent this year, a merch booth, which is what you see in the left-hand side of that top picture. So they will be, raising a little money this year. But it's really, like I said, it's a Milwaukie institution and has been for well over 20 years. You go earlier in the evening and you get the families with younger kids, and you go later in the evening and you get the teenagers and adults from, young to middle age. So they turn on the lights at dusk, and they go until 10 o'clock on weeknights until 11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday. On Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's not just lights, but it's a lot of effects. It's smoke, it's animatronics, it's video effects. It's quite the show. So I encourage people to stop by and see the Davis graveyard. I have to admit, I probably lived here for 8 years before I went. I heard about it and I never went, and I meet people all the time who have never been, and I'm like, no, you really do need to go. And now one of my friends is a fanatic and she goes like 6 times a year. So anyway, thank you. And now I'll move on to the haiku, for which I thank Councilor Anderson. He actually penned this last meeting when I was hurriedly scribbling out a haiku at the last minute. So, but I think he actually did a beautiful job. Lines just out of reach, thinking of the perfect phrase, haiku waits undone. And I just, with that, will put in a pitch. Please send me some haiku. I haven't gotten any submissions in a while. I encourage anyone to submit, adult, child. There aren't really rules, except that it needs to be G-rated. It needs to be non-political and non-religious. But otherwise, it can be funny. It can be poignant. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be about Milwaukie, but it doesn't. It's nice when it's about something in Milwaukie, but it doesn't have to be. So please send me some haiku so we can keep it going. And with that, we will move on to our proclamations and awards. And the first one is the Arbor Day Proclamation, which is being presented by Katie Gavares, our new Climate and Natural Resources Manager.
Good evening. I'm here this evening to introduce the proclamation for the city's Arbor Day celebration. Arbor Day is a special day that is set aside to raise awareness of trees and the important role that they play in our environment. The day is celebrated on different dates around the world depending on local seasons and temperatures. Our celebration of Arbor Day will be held on Saturday, October 26th from 8:45 to 1 p.m. at Water Tower Park. Join the city for tree planting, free tree giveaways, and light food and refreshments. All are welcome to stop by and enjoy the festivities and learn more about Milwaukee's Urban Forest Program. To celebrate all that trees provide, the city is partnering with Friends of Trees to provide Milwaukie residents with low-cost trees that volunteers will plant in their yard and/or parking strips. Residents within Milwaukie city limits can sign up to receive low-cost yard and street trees through Friends of Trees. The deadline to register is Friday, October 4th. Sign up for trees at friendsofTrees.org/get-a-tree. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. And would you like to read the proclamation, or do you want me to do that? Okay. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees play an integral part in capturing and storing carbon and are therefore critical in a solution to the climate crisis. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs of residents, moderate the temperature of increasingly developed and warming cities, clean the air, and provide health benefits for the community, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide and improve habitat for fish and wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our communities, and trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim October 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in Milwaukie, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to mitigate climate change and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. And next we have a proclamation marking Indigenous Peoples Day, and I invite Gabriela Santoyo Gutierrez And is she accompanied by someone else online or anything? No, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a quick request that if we could look at our proclamations and where it says citizen replaced with resident, that would be really great. I hope that it will be just a Scribner's error
Yeah.
that we can update, but I think that would be
Yes,
good.
we should do that.
Good move.
We should do
I apologize, Counselor. That has been an intention of staff the last few years, and sometimes one of those errant words gets it through. We've also tried to use the word community member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of them still say Mark Gamba on them. So some of these things take a while to get caught, but it's a good point. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gabriella.
Good evening, Council. Looks like a little bit of a proclamation palooza this afternoon, right? I would know about those. So for this proclamation, I want to acknowledge that I don't identify as Indigenous or part of any tribal nation, but as our Equity and Inclusion Coordinator, I'm honored to recognize the Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation and hope to do it some justice by providing some historical context. And the accountability piece of this is that I challenge us to rise, to continue to outreach and build relationships with our Indigenous neighbors. I know, including, we already have some ongoing connections with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. Scott will share a little bit here after I'm finished, but I will share another opportunity of an event this afternoon or on October 13th that I'd love for you all to join and participate if you're available. But to provide that context, the purpose of the proclamation is that Indigenous Peoples Day honors history, sovereignty, and contributions of Native Americans. It's not yet a federal holiday, but at least 12 states and over 20 cities have adopted it as a formal holiday. It's celebrated the second Monday in October, and this year's October 14th, which overlaps and for some is meant to shift away and replace from celebrating Columbus Day. The history of Columbus Day has been skewed to romanticize him as a discoverer rather than a colonizer, where his arrival has been one of many violent events after that led to the forceful taking of land and widespread illness and genocide of Indigenous communities. And so by recentering Indigenous and Native communities with this proclamation, it brings awareness, and with the holiday, it brings awareness that challenges how Native history and the first peoples of this country as mainly not being just past tense, but as contemporary sovereign nations who are owed a rightful place among American and family governments. So in some ways of celebrating that I was mentioning a little bit earlier, I highly encourage to learn more about the land that we live in and its Indigenous people's history. Some Indigenous activists have also mentioned honoring and protecting land, air, and water, or participating, as previously mentioned, maybe an Arbor Day. Some lessons are important. They address the ways in which conservation of natural resources is essential to the economic self-determination and self-sufficiency of Native nations. And so the event that I was mentioning earlier that it honors Indigenous Peoples Day celebration, and that also be a volunteer, and if you're available, is Clackamas Community College Indigenous Peoples Day. And that's October 13th. This event takes place from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. At the college's Environmental Learning Center located in Oregon City. This event is free and open to the public, and all are welcome to attend. With that, I'll pass it over if Scott wanted to share a few words.
Yes, thank you, Gabriella. Great introduction. And just to remind the community that we do have these ties to the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, and it's been a great pleasure personally to work with the tribal staff there. And I appreciate Council's recent authorization of the Intergovernmental Agreement for the first fish herons artworks that we'll hope to put on our waterfront in the next year or two. So thank you to Council for that support, and thank you for entertaining the proclamation today.
Great, thanks much to both of you. And I would just add, in addition to the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, they are at the table at the Kellogg Dam Project, as well as the Confederated Tribes of the Warm Springs. So it's good to have those connections as we're working through some of these important projects. projects in our community. Gabriella, do you want to read?
Will you read it, please?
Okay. Whereas the city of Milwaukie recognizes that the indigenous peoples of the lands known as the Americas have lived on these lands since time immemorial. And whereas this city wishes to honor the fact that the community of Milwaukie is built upon the traditional homelands of the Clackamas peoples, where some descendants are part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, a community of 5 tribes, Kalapuya, Malala, Umpqua, Shasta, and Rogue River, and affirms the legal rights of the 9 federally recognized tribal nations in the state of Oregon and all indigenous peoples everywhere. And whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations-sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And whereas this city is committed to protecting and advocating for justice, human rights, and the dignity of all people who live, work, and visit our community, and to supporting the principles contained in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, endorsed by the United States on December 16th, 2010. And whereas that declaration recognizes the right of Indigenous peoples to the dignity and diversity of their cultures, traditions, histories, and aspirations, which shall be appropriately reflected in education and public information, and places an obligation on states to take effective measures in consultation and cooperation with the Indigenous peoples concerned to combat prejudice and eliminate discrimination, and to promote tolerance, understanding, and good relations among Indigenous peoples and all other segments of society. And whereas this city wishes to recognize the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day as an opportunity to reflect on the ongoing struggles of Indigenous peoples of this land, to celebrate the thriving cultures and values of the Indigenous peoples of our region, and to stand with Indigenous peoples everywhere. Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2024 to be Indigenous Peoples Day in Milwaukie. Thank you, Gabriella. And I would note also, just on the note of partnership with Indigenous peoples and tribal organizations, that we do also have the shelter in that Northwest Housing Alternatives has just near Milwaukie High School that's called Auntie's Place. There's a native name for that, which I cannot remember. But the English variant they use is Auntie's Place. I recently ran into the director of that at a function, and she said things are going well and they are serving a lot of families there. So it's good to know that that center is up and running and serving that community. Anyway, thank you for bringing us this proclamation.
Thank you.
Next up in Proclamation Palooza is Planning Manager Laura Weigel with Community Planning Month.
Well, thanks so much for having me here tonight. I'm happy to be here, not discussing another complicated code package. Take a break from that. It's very exciting. So tonight I just want to talk a little bit about all the people here in Milwaukie that make my.
Oh, you need to hit the button. There you go.
I forget these details. I get so excited. So tonight I'm here to talk about all the people here in Milwaukie that make up the community and community planning. October is the month that jurisdictions across the country take a moment to pause and acknowledge and appreciate the hard work and commitment that goes into community planning. I started here 4 years ago this month, and even deep in the pandemic, we had volunteers show up to Zoom meetings for comprehensive plan implementation committee meetings. We've had volunteer planning commissioners show up for long, late nights through Zoom for a long period of time. We continue to have those wonderful volunteer planning commissioners that show up for really long nights. We also have lots of other volunteers that show up. We've had the Housing Needs Committee show up. We've got the Transportation System Plan Advisory Committee showing up. We've also got all of the folks that we send out surveys to and that we talk to and we visit and we go to for, we talk about neighborhood hubs and we go to neighborhood meetings. And so I just want to thank all of those people here in Milwaukie that show up consistently to think about what the future of Milwaukie is going to be. We are always constantly asking the question and talking to the community about what does community live to the people, mean to the people who live here? What should the community look like in the future? And how do we get to the future that we want? And whether we're talking about housing affordability, future bike lanes, transit stops, how we're protecting natural resources, or making plans to create active neighborhoods, folks, including yourselves, y'all are community planners too, show up repeatedly to dedicate their time to planning for the future of Milwaukie. So thank you to everyone who values and contributes to the hard, but ultimately rewarding process of community planning. A Greek philosopher once said, the only constant is change. As long as the community is at the forefront of that change, together with sound planning and open communication, we can continue to build a better Milwaukie that is entirely equitable, delightfully livable, and completely sustainable. Some really smart people planned for that future. Thank you. And yes, you can read the proclamation.
You're welcome to read it if you'd like. No? Okay.
You're so good at it.
Whereas community planning provides a wide range of benefits, including opportunities to evaluate and manage the constant change that affects cities and the region in a way that provides better choices for how people live, work, and play. Involve and empower all people who live and work in the city in making choices that determine the future of their community. And educate public officials and community members so they understand, support, question, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and whereas the American Planning Association and its professional institute, the American Institute of Certified Planners, endorse National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions sound planning makes to the quality of our built and natural environment. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the Planning Commission, the Transportation System Plan Advisory Committee, and other resident planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of Milwaukie. Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the county of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim that the month of October 2024 as Community Planning Month in the City of Milwaukie in conjunction with the National Celebration of Community Planning Month. Thank you. Thank you. And number 4 on the hit parade is National Archives Month. And it's being presented by our city recorder, Scott Stauffer, and I gather David Aschenbrenner on behalf of the Milwaukie Historical Society.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Beatty and Council, for once again pausing to celebrate Archives Month. And it's a privilege and pleasure on behalf of the City Recorder's Office to thank Dave and the Milwaukie Historical Society and their president, Steve Bennett, for continuing to be terrific partners. It's been a busy few years, both at the museum and at the city, and so I think we both regret the lack of total events that we've had to share with each other, but we look forward to a renewed effort in that front. And just today, we got to do one of the cool, perhaps a little nerdy things that people at the museum and at the recorder's office like to do, and that Dave emailed a photo of a plaque that they found in their basement today, and then we set about, and Nicole immediately set about researching what that plaque meant. And I don't know, Dave, if you want to talk about the plaque you found and the good work you're doing, but we appreciate the Historical Society and you being here today.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Scott, for what you do to help keep the archives of the city and to work with us with the rest of the archives for Milwaukie. We've been on a several different tracks at the museum, at the Historical Society. One is to go through and actually start documenting and putting all the archive items that we have into a computer program so that we can access them easily and quickly. But part of that is also comes into the storage of where you put these items within the building and how you keep them. So there's several groups within the society. One of them is this group that works on a couple days a week, going down and just going through and moving things, building shelves, finding places to put all these archives. And one of them today was, we were down there and we ran across this plaque and I go, I should ask Scott. If I don't know, Scott's the first guy I go to. So I fired it over to Scott and now we are still doing some research on what this plaque is and where it came from. But archives are important. Archives is keeping a hold of the past, learning from it, treasuring it, and then using it to help us move forward. The society spends a lot of time, we're open every Saturday, or almost every Saturday. We won't be open this Saturday, but most Saturdays, you can come down, walk around. We have exhibits on display. We put up new exhibits at least once a year. And it's just a treasure trove of stuff that we find and store. And I'm amazed the times I go down there and I open up a box and I go, whoa, where did this come from and what's the history behind this? And then that sets us off on another course of trying to find out. So again, I want to thank the city staff and the community for supporting the Milwaukie Historical Society and the Milwaukie Museum, because we love being the treasure trove of the archives that we have for the city of Milwaukie.
Thank you. Did you have anything further?
No, thank you again to the Historical Society and Dave. And I will note, maybe for the record here, but it was a great relief to me that when we moved out of Old City Hall, the rolling shelves that we had in the old basement, and through the Milwaukie Historical Society and the connection to the Clackamas County Historical Society, that rolling shelf system is being repurposed and reused by a sister organization here for the Clackamas County Historical Society. So in that project, we took every opportunity we could to make sure that the Historical Society got first dibs or we connected it to somebody. So we appreciate the partnership.
We actually made a deal with Milwaukie or Oregon Trail Museum down in Oregon City, and we got all their old wall lockers that they were using, which we had space for and needed, so that they could get the rolling shelves in. So it was a partnership that worked away all around for everybody.
Great, great. Do one of you guys want to read the proclamation? No? Would you like to read?
I can give you a break if you'd like.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Whereas preserving the story of a place and the people who dwell there in any given moment is essential to understanding a community and how it came to be. And whereas the story of a community can only be complete when all voices and perspectives are heard and included in the shared history of a place and its people. And whereas civic and community archives seek to collect and preserve the documents, tales, traditions, and voices of those who came before us. And whereas civic and community archives could not exist without the professionals and volunteers who work tirelessly to preserve the voices of a community. And whereas Milwaukee's shared history is carefully preserved by the Milwaukie Historical Society and the Office of the City Recorder, who recommend the proclaiming of Archives Month as a reminder that the events of yesterday and today must be documented to better inspire a more perfect future for all residents of our community, regardless of age, race, gender orientation, income, or beliefs.
And now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Archives Month in the hope that all voices may be appreciated, recorded, and preserved for the betterment of all. Thank you guys very much.
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to mention one other event that goes on, and it's ending at the end of this month, and that is the Milwaukie Farmers Market.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the last month where we have the weekly market, and there will be a special one right before Thanksgiving, but I got to put my other hat on to do that one too. Thank you.
Yeah, we know everybody loves the farmer's market, and even as the season changed and there's a little less produce, there's still great things to be had at the farmer's market. And so, yeah. And you're going to have a nice weekend. You really have, I mean, there were a couple hot days, I guess, but really this has been a pretty good season in terms of rain and hot weather and stuff for the market, and not having to close down early and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And this weekend looks glorious. So get out to the farmer's market. Thank you. And then our last proclamation for the night is one that it says presented by me and the council president, but it's really the council president's idea. I just helped add it to the agenda. He brought up this idea and I thought it was a great one because we know election workers are under attack in some parts of this country, and we wanted to express our solidarity with the people who work on our elections. So I'll turn it over to Councilor Massey.
Thank you. So my parents were poll workers, literally for decades and decades. And so when I was a youngster, I was periodically drugged down to the school cafeteria for several hours of bored fidgeting. And I remember one time when I was protesting loudly about being drugged to the school cafeteria to hang around for the vote count. My mother said, "Just get in the car, this is important." So I did, and fast forward a few years and just a little bit of maturity, and I became to appreciate the wisdom of her just sternly saying to me, this is important. Because whether you're a poll worker, a volunteer poll worker, or you're a salaried part-time or full-time election employee, the election workers deserve our respect and thanks. So I'll read the proclamation.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Please.
Whereas one of the founders of the United States, Alexander Hamilton, spoke to the importance of elections and voting when he said, "We do not have government by the majority, we have government by the majority who participate." And whereas the election clause of the U.S. Constitution and Public Law 28-1 specifies the manner and dates for federal elections on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even-numbered years, which is 5 weeks from today. And whereas Oregonians have voted by mail since 1999 with great success and election integrity, with only 38 voter fraud convictions from 61 million votes cast over a 19-year period, which is a 0.0006% fraud rate. And whereas Clackamas County election workers power our elections with intense, meticulous work behind the scenes to ensure success in this critically important democratic function. And whereas election workers in some parts of the country have regrettably been subjected to harassment and even threats that are unwarranted and unpatriotic. Whereas Clackamas County election workers have our utmost support and complete trust. In short, we have your back.
Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim October 16th, 2024 as Clackamas County Election Workers Appreciation Day as they begin mailing ballots.
Thank you, Mayor Beatty and Council President Massey for reading this. I did share that this was on the agenda tonight with the county clerk, and County Clerk McMullen's office and election manager shared their sincere appreciation for council taking the time to read this proclamation, and they look forward to serving. They have over 120 volunteers who will be picking up ballots and helping do the count, and they appreciate the vote of support. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks to them, because there will be a lot of eyes on them this year, as many years. Yeah. So with that, we will go to community comments. This is the part of the agenda during which council will hear community member comments regarding city business that is not already on the agenda. Before we begin, is there any follow-up from the September 17th comments? Ms. Sagor.
Thank you, Mayor. At the September 17th meeting, we received public comment from an individual expressing some frustration with the Monroe Greenway project. I wanted to just give a really brief update that our planning team, or our engineering team, I'm sorry, is
cranking through all the comments that were received during that last public engagement period and putting together a really comprehensive report responding to every piece of public feedback we got. That will be available shortly. We're also producing an engagement plan that will sort of explain what the public can expect in terms of engagement and communication opportunities between this phase and construction, which is still quite a ways off. So more to come on that. And then we also received a comment about the visibility of a stop sign at the intersection of 37th and Monroe. We're looking into that, and then I'll provide an update when I get that from engineering. And that individual also asked if the city has a vehicle noise control ordinance. We do have code regulating excessive vehicle noise. Thanks.
Funny, you should mention that. I was sitting in front of a beer store with some friends last night and a super loud car went by and somebody said, don't they have to have mufflers? What happened? Why are they allowed to do that? So what is a resident's recourse when they have a noise complaint like that?
I believe it would be to contact code enforcement.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Call non-emergency if it's a problem, yeah.
Okay. Try and catch a license plate number, I guess, and that's the recourse. It has been, I've noticed it with both some of the scooter things, the little, anyway, it does seem like it was funny when I was a teenager, that was the thing, souped up cars making lots of noise. And then that kind of got, I don't know if it became unpopular or it just got regulated more, but it seems like it's back. 40 something years later, it's back, and noisier cars are back in fashion. Okay, well, good to know. We also had a letter that's in our packet from the beer store, and I would like us advocating a more open container type law for people moving their way around downtown in Milwaukie Bay Park. And I would like us to have a conversation about that at whatever point staff is ready to have a conversation about that.
Sure, we'll get that on the forecaster. Thanks.
Thank you. Before I read the rest of this script, we obviously have no one in the room waiting to testify. Mr. Stauffer, do we have anyone online waiting to testify? No. Okay, then I will forego the rest of that script and go to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the City Council August 20th, 2024 work session and August 20th, 2024 regular session. A resolution appointing Andy Fisher and Shimron Tubman to the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and a resolution authorizing a partnership between the city and Clackamas County to submit a grant application for federal pathways to removing obstacles, PRO, housing funds to fund affordable housing development in Milwaukie. Does any council member wish to remove a consent agenda item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Is it?
That's, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think I heard Councilor Anderson there. Any opposed, say no. None heard. The consent agenda is passed unanimously. And I just wanted to comment on the item D, the resolution about the funding application for HUD funding. It's great. I hadn't heard about that before, and it looks like a great opportunity. So hopefully that will come through. So we have nothing else on the agenda other than council reports, which we did for the most part. I think I will resume talking about Milwaukie Bay Park a little bit, and everyone is welcome to chime in to the extent they want to. I'm not going to try and go through my whole list of what I think are misleading statements coming from the county commissioners, but I am going to call out a couple of them. First off, the written response they have given to people and some of the oral statements they have given say the existing Master Intergovernmental Agreement, or IGA, which you'll hear the term IGA a lot in this discussion, is out of compliance with state law. They state that like it's a fact, like it's a factual statement. It is their contention in a legal proceeding, but it is not a factual statement. So by putting it, phrasing it the way they do and not preceding that with, it is our position that, or we contend that the IGA is out of compliance with state law, they're engaging in misleading the public by making an emphatic statement. They also say we are suing them. We are not suing them. We are in court asking, in what's called a validation action, asking for the court to clarify whether that IGA is valid or not. And they also say 2 judges have ruled against Milwaukie. That's not true. 1 judge has ruled against Milwaukie, and that case is on appeal to the Court of Appeals. The other case they're alluding, the first time they said that, I'm like, what do they mean 2 judges? And then it became clear that they are talking about the Happy Valley case of 6 or 7 years ago. The Happy Valley case is very different. The situation of Milwaukie and Happy Valley is very different. Milwaukie was a founding part of the district and has and its participation in the district is the subject of this IGA. Happy Valley acceded to the district, meaning, or annexed to the district rather, that's the better word, which involved a particular section of Oregon law, Oregon Revised Statute, Section 198. That is not how Milwaukie got in the district. That should not dictate how Milwaukie gets out of the district. Happy Valley's situation, how it got into the district and how it got out really has no bearing on Milwaukie because our existence within the district is on entirely different terms. I will say Commissioner West in some meetings has said a lot of things about how things are unfair in the Parks District, that there are parks deserts, especially in the east of the district. The tax rate is too low. I don't think we disagree with that. I certainly don't disagree with that. Those are true statements, but those are not were not caused by Milwaukie. Those were caused by decades of inaction by county commissioners not buying parks properties when they became available, not going out for a levy or in whatever way finding funds to build those parks. The inequity in the Parks District is there. It is real, but it is not the fault of Milwaukie or Milwaukie residents. Milwaukie has been blessed by having city councils over the years that saw the necessity of parks, seized the opportunity when properties were available to buy park land, sought funding, whether that was state grants or in the case of the 3 parks being built now, ARPA money. The county got a boatload of ARPA money, which they spent on a bunch of things, but they could have spent some of that on parks in the eastern part of the NCPRD district, and they're not doing that. So I just felt like that needed to be called out. Milwaukie ratepayers should not be penalized for the fact that there are parks deficiencies in other parts of the district. And I guess finally, I would just say that last week, so in their response to some of the letters they were getting from residents urging them to build Milwaukie Bay Park, they had some sort of boilerplate language they used in all these responses, and it said at the end that basically, we can't talk to you about this. This is an issue for conversation between lawyers or between elected officials. So 2 weeks ago yesterday, taking them up on that language that had been in many responses to letters they got, we wrote and offered to meet with them. If they are open to conversations between elected officials, we offered to reopen, which that offer has been standing really for a year now. They're the ones who cut off conversation over a year ago. But we wanted to take the opportunity of that language they were using to say, we're here and we're ready to start talking. We've gotten no response to that, zero response. I do note that the responses they're sending to residents now does not have that language about conversations between electeds anymore. But we've gotten no response to our offer to sit down and talk with them. And even as recently as last Thursday, Council President Massey went to testify at their meeting last Thursday. And even in that meeting, in his conversation, Commissioner West said that he wants to get Milwaukie to be a fair and honest broker at the table. Again, at the table implies that there is a table and that we are having conversations. And so I say once again, what we said in letters, that we are ready 2-on-2 to start having meetings to talk about Milwaukie Bay Park. We do hear the community outcry for moving forward on Milwaukie Bay Park before the grants lapse. We do have some ideas and some energy and some commitment to helping find ways to fill the funding gap on Milwaukie Bay Park. So I wanted to encourage the county commissioners to make the words they've been saying actually mean what they say. And if anyone else wants to chime in, please feel free.
I thought that was a good summation, Mayor, and I support all of it.
Likewise, and I just like to echo, well, I actually have a question. So how long in total has Milwaukie Bay Park been on hold? About 15 years, something like that?
Well, Milwaukie Bay, the
How
city's
long has it been going on?
like since the late 90s, so
Late
like
90s.
25 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they've had plenty of time to figure this out, plenty of time to distribute assets, plenty of time, plenty of a rotation of electeds to fulfill their role in being that elected body for those areas that don't. And I think it's pretty clear that it goes deeper than that. It's not a legal matter. And the county has money. I share this with Council President Massey that Chair Smith just released a campaign ad. And in it, she said, I'm going to tell you what government doesn't want you to know. And she said that the county currently has $153 million in a rainy day savings account. And she gloated even after building a $300 million courthouse. What she forgot to mention is also how they cut 10% budgets across the board on every single department. So if there's a lack of funding in NCPRD, I think they need to look in the mirror. Build the park.
I think we've heard very clearly from residents and constituents of Milwaukie and of Clackamas County that there's a lot of interest in seeing Milwaukie Bay Park come to fruition. I think that both of our jurisdictions have a role to play in that, and I think that the sooner we can get together and have those conversations, the better. In order to get there, I think that there are some things that need to be fact-checked. But the best way to do that, honestly, is to get in the room. And it has been concerning that the implication has been presented that we are suing the county, because that's actually not what a validation action is. And the legal system, especially around land use, is very, very confusing. So I think that it's unfortunate that that implication is allowed to marinate. And I think it gives people the impression that we are doing something, vindictively against the county. But in actuality, getting clarification on our rights is, that's our right. That's our right to do. We have documents that are contradictory. We have guidance from partnership agreements with the county that are contradictory. And honestly, the legislative history is spotty. So the best way to get clarification is just that, and you ask for that in a validation action. I think, I think it's amazing how many residents of Milwaukie now know how to define a validation action because of this dialogue. So I hope you all go to law school. But really, we've made efforts in the last 2 years to earnestly have this conversation. And I think that there are ways that we can move forward toward that. We had a really great conversation in our work session before our break. And I think that there's goodwill on both parts, honestly. I mean, what is said in meetings aside, I think that there are members of both of our jurisdictional bodies that want to see this asset developed and want to see it be a benefit to all of Clackamas County. It's not just Milwaukie. So I'm excited for that to happen. I appreciate Council President going and testifying. And I hope that we are able to get to a point where we have clarification and also we're able to get in the same room and start talking through some of these. I think that would be in the best interests of the residents of Milwaukie. Thank you.
Thank you. Agreed wholeheartedly. Councillor Anderson, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, happy to just briefly touch on some things because I think you all have addressed it well. I'm really inspired to see the work of folks like the Island Station NDA, Dave Cadwallader, Jacob Sherman, who have been really clear about just getting people involved in this political process. I think that any event that kind of brings people together in this way, it has some merits. I will say, I might disagree with our county commission on some of these things. I can understand why you're frustrated at Milwaukie. And at the same time, I hope you can see why the city of Milwaukie might in some ways be frustrated as well with this process. I think at the end of the day, we all want a thriving regional park in Milwaukie Bay. And I would just say that we are really committed to coming down, sitting at the table and finding a solution that works for you all, to even just understand how we can bridge this gap. I think that that's really important, that we remain solution oriented. So I appreciate all the work that you all have done and excited to continue on.
Thank you. So I think that's probably it for me. Any last chance for other council reports, other topics people want to?
I just wanted to mention that there on Friday, there is an event at the Clackamas Service Center. And this is at 10 a.m. on Friday, October 4th. The location is 8800 Southeast 80th Avenue in Clackamas. So it's right off of 82nd Avenue, just north of the Clackamas Happy Valley Fred Meyer. And the service center has been there for a long time. They're celebrating the completion of Anna's Annex, which is a new social service building on the property. And the new building will allow them to offer consistent showers and laundry facilities, which is something that they haven't had before. So that they're expanding their hygiene and clothing supplies. They also have a really talented team working on housing assistance and getting folks connected with services. And on Friday, we'll make the formal announcement of the Milwaukie Heart program. And so we've been working really hard to build partnership between the service center and the school district and the city and the county. And I'm really excited about the event. So if you're able to be there, it's Friday the 4th at 10 a.m. at the Clackamas Service Center. There will also be tours of the annex at that time. So there's a press release that has gone out, and I'll share it out on my social media, and maybe we can boost that out through the city. There's one other thing that I've been thinking about. It has to do with liaison assignments. So you may recall when Councilor Anderson came on board with a strong interest around transportation, we shifted the transportation systems plan assignment that I had, and he's dug into that very respectfully. I've been really impressed and excited to see that his energy around the issues of transportation are really already helping the city. I have been serving on the C4 committees, which those are the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee. There's a county-wide group that meets once a month, and there's a group of just the cities within the metro boundary, and that meets once a month. And in addition, there's the JPACT meeting, which is Joint Transportation Planning meeting, and there's also the MPAC meeting, so I've been the alternate for that, and that has more to do with land use, and it's been talking about the urban growth boundaries. So with the transportation roadshow that's been going around the state, Councilor Anderson and I were planning to attend, and the mayor wanted to be there as well. And I think it just it's made me think about streamlining these policy lanes or these swim lanes a little bit more. And so I think what I'd like to do is propose that Councilor Anderson take over the C4 meetings. And the reason that I'm doing this now versus, waiting until after the election is because that group, I think, is really gearing up for the legislative session. And as I've mentioned before in my updates, the legislative session is going to be dealing with a huge transportation package. Councilor Anderson has that legislative experience. He knows his way around, all the bills, all the legislative concepts. And this would give him a little bit of time to get familiar with the group and be an advocate, for us in that regard too. So I'm throwing this out there, and I'd like to propose that, I'd certainly still be honored to be an alternate, because sometimes that group does talk about housing, and that's an area where I have dug in a bit more. They have an annual retreat, and I'm happy to still attend that because anyone on council is invited to participate in that. But what I'd like to do is shift the liaison assignments around a little bit so that Will can take the primary role on C4, and then I'll serve as his alternate.
I assume that you've spoken with him and he's willing to take this on.
Well, he might be speaking from a sickness fever right now. Do you want any other assignments?
Yeah, we've all got assignments. We can, yeah.
I'd love to have been assigned a booster ahead of this, but Rebecca, or Councilor Stafford, I really appreciate that. I don't know. I am newer to this body, and I think all four of you have done a great job of welcoming me on. And this is a big, C4 is a really exciting community that does exciting stuff. And you're right, there's going to be some fun transportation stuff that we get to dig in on. But I also want to recognize this is a really kind thing for you to do. So I appreciate that a lot.
I guess my only question is, last year I thought we had designated Councilor Khosrowbadi as an alternate, but then when we were doing the thing this year, I don't know that we discussed that, so.
I know I was the alternate, but when we had our So we need a proclamation for that. And then I think when we had I thought when we had our retreat, didn't we kind of revise? Was that not
Okay,
official?
okay. I didn't remember what we said there about an alternate this year. I remembered, I'm just thinking about last year.
Oh, yeah.
But I just want to make sure you didn't
Yeah,
feel,
no.
no,
I
okay,
appreciate that.
okay,
Thank you.
We
okay.
could do some really good cross-training if you want to be an alternate.
Yeah, there'd
I'm
be
good
a
at
lot
being
to,
an alternate. I could just pick her brain and her reports.
yeah.
They're pretty thorough. You get a streamlined version of those meetings through Rebecca's reports, so appreciate that. It saves us the time.
Okay, do we need to have an official vote on
So
that?
what
Do
we can do is we can update
chart?
the chart and we'll put it back on the consent agenda. That's how we've approved it in the past. So we'll go ahead and make that update and put it on the next consent.
Okay,
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
great.
great.
Thank you.
I appreciate that though, Mayor, for
Yeah.
looking out. Thank you.
Okay, any other last things for the good of the order? All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None heard. We are adjourned.
Why,